What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Dane Carter Show. We have my buddy, my friend, my homie, my colleague in studio today. His name is Dan Blackwell. Dan Blackwell is the #1 multifamily real estate guy in all of Orange County. He works for CB Richard Ellis. He's the man, but I'm going to introduce him and let him tell a little bit of his backstory about where Dan is from, what Dan's doing now, and where Dan is going. So Dan, welcome, my man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Me too. So Dan and I met like a while back, and we have a lot of friends in common. We do a lot of the same things in business. And before we get into all that, Dan, maybe walk the audience through, where you were born, where you came from, and why on earth you decided to get into multifamily real estate.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from North Carolina. I'm 36 now. I lived in North Carolina till I was about 25. I got into real estate when I was 20. The book that changed my life was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Me too. I love it.
That was the first one that changed my whole thought process,
Yep.
my whole thinking, how to have money work for you. You don't have to work for money, eventually, and really getting on that path. So I went, read some real estate books, tried to get a little vernacular going. I was in business school at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I stayed in my hometown. I knew the market. And I said, man, I gotta go work for like the most reputable, successful person that I could find. And this developer named David Greer, I went to go work for him, and I went for free, drove up an hour to where he was developing this new home community in Hampstead, North Carolina, and would just kind of help people. He bought 100 acres towards the Intercoastal Waterway, subdivided all the lots, and then he had me eventually sell the lots for him.
I love it.
But
he got that opportunity, and I don't mean to cut you off,
Yep.
because he went to go work for him for free.
Yep.
Like, when I got into real estate, I went to go work for this little investment company off of 2nd Street in Long Beach for free at 30. Like, you have to get around people that are doing what you want to do. And the fastest and easiest way to do that is to do it for free, to get an education, and then the opportunities will come if you're willing to risk it. So sorry, go ahead. I just didn't want,
no worries.
because so many people are like, where's my paid internship? Your paid internship is by you learning from the best.
Right.
Right?
I knew to work for the best. I didn't have any connections, didn't have any money, didn't go to a great school, not knocking UNCW, but I didn't have like some Ivy League, credential going on. So I just had my time. And I remember driving up first to go out to I didn't even really know what I was doing. A friend of his had me go up there, and I was driving up, and it was an hour drive, and I'm going through, driving up there, I'm like, what am I doing? It's a Saturday, I'm 20, all my friends are out partying.
Where are the chicks?
And I literally pulled into a gas station, grabbed like a Gatorade, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna turn around. And I literally got in the car and turned back and headed home. And this actually will kind of describe how I am in my thought process. I was driving home literally for just a little, couple minutes, and I'm like, I gotta go back. I will always wonder what it would have been like had I not gone for it, and it'll eat at you. And I knew that. And so For life. So I went up there, I was nervous, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just showed up, and there was a line of people, prospective buyers, wanting to tour the community that David Greer was launching. And there was a couple brokers there. Again, I'm 20, I didn't even know what was going on. And there's a line, and everybody's kind of filling out their information so they can get put into a database. This is I want to say 2003. So a lady said, hey, Dan, all these people are waiting in line for a broker tour. There's an extra golf cart over there. Why don't you hop, the next person in line in and drive them around the neighborhood? And I'm like, okay.
I can drive a golf cart.
I can drive a golf cart. So we kind of discovered the neighborhood together, and it was a pretty cool neighborhood. I was just sitting around, driving around, and wow, look at the water. Oh, there's a boat slip. Oh, you go to, this clubhouse. Look at this, pretty nice. They said, we want to talk to an agent. So I just went up to the open house and said, this lady was Sonia. I said, Sonia, these people are interested. Well, they ended up buying a property that day. I didn't even know what I was doing. I knew to hand it off, but the sales manager came to me and said, hey, who are you? Tell me about you. Come back tomorrow. And the buyer came back and signed the paperwork, and then he's like, who are you? The sales manager's name was Charlie. And Charlie ended up being my mentor for 5 years.
Right.
I went up every weekend. I was in college. wrapped up business school. I ended up having some success. I made a couple $100,000 one year.
Nice.
Selling dirt, and had some success. And then 2006 came, and that's when it just stopped.
No more development.
No more development. So I had a couple good years. I saved money. I bought some houses. I drove my Ford Explorer. I didn't do stupid stuff.
That's what I used to do. I had a Ford Explorer, and all my business partners had these like high-end luxury cars. I'm like, what for?
Yeah,
I'm buying real estate.
I eventually, I had a gold Ford Explorer with dirty interior, but I just put 25% down, bought some houses, bought some land, did some stuff, learned, tried to do everything what Rich Dad was saying. And I ended up doing that. 2006, the market really froze. We were in a tertiary market. Everybody stopped buying. I didn't know where, I'd never had anything of success before, so I didn't know where I could just go and find that in that small town, that level of success again. So I stayed on, and I kind of went down with the ship. And I was the last man standing.
Captain.
And I went down, and it was like the Titanic, and I really had a lot of love and respect for that company. So long story short, I met a guy at a real estate update course that you have to go to annually, and this guy, his name's John Kane. He was in the business, and he's like...
Same John Kane from here?
Oh,
Was it John Kane?
No, John Kane's a buddy of mine, dude. Sorry, brain fart. John Caven.
Shout out to John Kane.
Shout out to John Kane. He is the man. We did do a deal this year in Laguna. So
that's what I thought of, like the same John Kane.
I actually saw him in the gym today, so sorry, dude.
OC?
But this guy, John Caven, was like, you got to go to a big market. You got to specialize. I think that was really important. So learn how to specialize. And Atlanta or, the nearest towns, cities, Charlotte, Raleigh didn't do anything for me. I ended up going out, long story short, or long story long, I'm flying out to San Diego. I studied. I learned that since I don't have any connections, I don't have any real ins with these big firms, where could I go? And I found out on research the best firm that I could start with is Marcus & Millichap. And Marcus & Millichap is big in Southern California. I went to San Diego, flew out for a career night.
It's a big market.
Didn't even know how to put on a tie. Like my buddy showed me how to do it.
Yep.
Go in, and they passed on me. They were like, you know what? It's probably not going to be a fit. You're not from here. You need to start all over again. You probably don't have a high chance of success. I was devastated.
Of course.
And, meanwhile, I haven't had income. This is like 2008. I hadn't had any income really. I went from making, $150,000, $250,000 a year to pretty much zero, the next couple of years. So I'm like, it's getting tough. It's getting, I'm like, actually at that time I started borrowing. The developer I worked for told me, get equity lines in your house and live off your equity lines. And I'm like, dude, that's not smart. But I didn't know, so that's what I did. And I was living off that, not high on the hog, but I was getting upside down on my houses. So I was really upside down in my life, and I was devastated when San Diego wouldn't hire me. So then, you know what I did? I did the same thing, kind of like when I turned back around on that road and went back to, see that opportunity. I was a little kind of motivated, so I called the next closest office.
Smart.
And it was in Orange County.
Yep.
And I met my next mentor, who's been mentoring me for 10 years. His name's Joe Chesta. And I met Joe at Marcus & Millichap. He's now at CBRE. Joe met me. He was 30 years old at the time, like fresh into management, was super successful in investment sales. I met him, and it was the same thing. It hit me in the gut, and I go, I have to see this through. I have to move to California. He gave me an opportunity. It wasn't much of one. They gave me a bench to sit down. They didn't even give me a cube.
That's all you need, though. Like, just give me an at-bat.
Yeah. Give me an at-bat. He gave it to me, and it was the same thing. I went back home to North Carolina. I'm like, if I don't take this opportunity, I'm always going to wonder what it would have been like. I mean, I had a good life in North Carolina, no doubt. Friends, family, it was a good lifestyle, but I wanted to go big. I wanted to do something big.
And I really want you to kind of go a little bit deeper with that, because so many people will stop at the first no. Because it was probably so hard for you just to gain enough balls to even hop on a plane to go to San Diego to even have this opportunity. And then when you got the no, it really takes the wind out of you. But then you learn that resilience, and like, I needed to be able to be a little tougher than one no, especially in this business. So maybe talk about what it felt like to just kind of muster up all of the courage to come to San Diego, and then how how did you be like, well, San Diego didn't work, but I'll just go to the next closest office?
You know, that's a great question. I think what I kind of was looking at my life, and I knew that I could do something great. I think everybody has just so much potential, and you just have to, you could be your biggest enemy sometimes. But
I for sure am.
yeah, I mean, I had like, let's say my expectation of myself was, here, and I didn't want to lower my expectation of myself if I settled.
Yep.
And that, I'd have like a bad attitude.
Settling's the worst,
I
bro.
just wouldn't be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think dwelling on that thought of what that feels like, what that looks like of settling, I'm like, no, screw it. I'm going to go find the next office. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to push a little harder. I'm not ready to give up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I processed it.
Dude, I love it. Because there are a lot of people that think about that are in some small town somewhere in the U.S. They're like, oh, I'm never going to do it though. And then they get married and have kids and have this job, and they're griddled with regret. That is my biggest fear. That's why I risk stuff all the time. I try new things. Even this podcast, I was petrified to start it. It took me a year to even plug a little Blue Yeti microphone into my computer, and I'm like, welcome to Bulletproof Real Estate with Dane Carter, like the first thing we launched. I had no idea what I was doing. I was petrified. But there's a weird part of me that likes that fear and to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
And then I went from that to now having a podcast in the top 100 of business, all podcasts and iTunes.
Yeah, I mean, that podcast had a lot of value. I think that's how me and you connected.
No, absolutely.
It was fire. It was awesome. And I think a lot of your listeners love it,
And it's just me putting out, like, my opinion on what's going on, and it's stuff you can actually use in your business the next day.
Yeah, but if you would have settled, you would have never been able to help.
Ever.
You wouldn't have been able to help the people. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Okay, so then you come here and you have a mentor, which is really important. I push mentorship really, really hard, especially if you can get next to somebody. That's obviously where you want to go.
Yeah.
And what happened when you first landed here and you were working at Marcus and Millichap? And for people that work at Marcus and Millichap that listen to this podcast, you're not going to take offense to this, but y'all eat your young. Like they teach you how to be the savage of savages. You shop the deals like crazy, and my homies at Marcus and Millichap in Long Beach, you know who you are. Like it's a love-hate relationship from the inside out. It's a great company. They do a lot of deals, but what was it like experiencing that firsthand?
Oh, man. It was... So I met Joe, and I came out. I drive all the way across country in my Tahoe. I did upgrade from the Explorer, got a Tahoe.
Nice.
But it made it all the way out. I had so much on my mind that I was processing that I just went for it, and I just, got here. I didn't even...
Oh, sorry, this is 2000 what, 7? 8.
This was 2008.
The real estate market is in a 50-year implosion, and you're driving across country to do real estate.
I'm driving across the country to do real estate, and I know it's going to be bad. We all kind of know it's going to be totally screwed up.
Yeah.
The day I walk into Marcus & Millichap, my start date was September 15th, 2008. And that was the day Lehman crashed. So it's like capital markets freeze, there's nothing going on, no lending, like everything, the velocity's down. So this is kind of, what I went through. So
that's when I started. I started at the bottom. I started the exact same time.
That's great. It was, looking back,
the best.
That's the best. I mean, because you learn the market, you work a certain level, and if you don't change, you're going to, most likely outwork everybody else. So I got in, the market's totally screwed. I rented an apartment. I get in, I sat at the bench. I'm just looking around, just like, oh my God. And then basically they said, what market do you want to work? I'm like, I don't even know a city in Orange County.
I'm like,
Newport.
The one that sells property?
The one that sells property, and that's actually the one that I picked. So I looked and I pulled up, where's the highest level number of buildings and where's the most trades, and it was Anaheim. So, at Marcus Millichap, I didn't realize that every apartment broker kind of worked Anaheim because it's trades. You should. So I went and walked every apartment building in Anaheim. It took 3 months to map it all, to walk through the streets, photo everything, go back and catalog it into a database. But that gave me confidence. I got to see all the buildings that traded, all the buildings that kind of needed work, what type of ownership. people have if there's multiple buildings, learn the streets. But it took a long time, and I got in, and there's just I didn't realize like how many outbound calls were going on in the marketplace, and the barriers to entry as an apartment broker, they're not very high. So I had some challenges. In my mind when you're pushing yourself really hard. You question things sometimes, and that's normal. I would go to my manager, Joe, and I'm like, this is what I'm going through. And it was just the same things that everybody else was going through. But I think what helped me is I was really vocal with Joe. I was able to go into his office and say, like a doctor, like, my elbow hurts. This is where it hurts. It hurts when I do this. And he could tell me exactly what to do to fix it.
That pain?
But if I walked in, I was like, yeah, everything's great. You can't coach that. You can't coach that.
I agree.
So I was super vulnerable. I went into Joe's office, and I didn't get that way day one because I was a little intimidated of him. I looked up to him big time, but I didn't want him to see my weakness. I did go in early, and I was like, Joe, it's been 3 months. I'm giving it my all, and I feel like I might need to just pull it back a little bit, because if I just continue to keep pushing and I don't make it, I just won't be able to,
I'm devastated.
I'm going to be freaking devastated.
And that's why those little wins are so important. And sometimes those little wins are hey, Dan, you're doing a great job, man, from your mentor. Like, it doesn't matter where these wins come from, but you have to keep them going, because those hard days come.
They do. And that was a hard year. It was dark. I didn't even know what was up, down, left, right, and I kind of had Joe guide me through it. So 3 months into the business, the houses I bought in North Carolina are underwater. A couple of them are vacant. I'm like feeding them, and I'm renting an apartment here, which isn't cheap. And I'm just trying to figure it out. And another guy in the office was like, dude, you need to just like cut bait on that stuff, man. You're like, I had 7 million
people did that. Like,
yeah,
big deal. That happens.
It was great for me looking back, because I was only 26 at the time, and then I wasn't able to build up much at that age, but I lost it all. It's devastating, but it wasn't like I was 70 and lost everything. I can't make it back. You're screwed. So I learned to psychologically process all that, but I think I lost. I'm trying to remember. It was 3 houses. One of them I had my parents move into. They were renting it from me for nothing, but dude, they got foreclosed on. I got the foreclosure, but they had dude, how embarrassing. My God. And then
dude, but that's where like resilience comes from. That's when real growth happens. If you're trying to basically front the whole time, it doesn't, like, you're not going to learn anything.
Yeah. I mean
it sucks, don't get me wrong, but it's terrible.
Yeah.
But that's the only place you can springboard from. That's when real growth happens and real maturity.
Yeah, for sure. There was a really good network at M&M where everybody was kind of, I had filed bankruptcy in the cubes, man. Like, I had it bad. And, I think right when I was filing and all that paperwork was coming in, my desk was full. Like, one side of the desk was deals, comps. The other side was just, like, bankruptcy filings.
My financial failure.
And dude, like, the sheriff had to come in and like give me, and it was just, everybody knew. It was just really embarrassing, but it didn't, I really was able to clip in with some guys that were there for me, and we all kind of like rode together.
That's right.
But basically it kind of was pretty dark. But it gets bright. So basically cold calling, super competitive. I'm behind because I don't have any connections. I don't have any money. I don't even know where I'm at. I'm like butchering. I'm calling it Disney World, East Coast terms.
And it's Disneyland.
Yeah.
So did you feel, because you had so many chips stacked against you, there's usually 2 kinds of people. One, you're going to fold under the pressure, and you're going to kind of tuck tail and run. Or you're like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong, even if I don't really believe I can do it yet. I just think there's 2 kinds of people, and you're clearly the one where you're going to go up against all the odds. You have no connections out here. It's hard enough when your parents are like a member of a country club and every other person has multifamily properties for you to network with. It's still hard.
Yeah.
So for you to come here with just blank, with your fingers crossed, but a work ethic
Exactly. I think, somebody said to me something in the beginning. They were like, just stick with something. Mm-hmm. You're 25, 26 years old. By the time you're 35, 36, you'll have done something for 10 years.
Mastery.
You don't want to be the dude on LinkedIn and you've got 10 different jobs in 10 different years and then you're just like entry level. You want to, and that resonated with me. So I'm like, just give it time, give it time, give it time. I'd go to the top. What was great about that bigger of the firm, I was able to go to top producers and kind of
like, how'd you do it?
How'd you do it? Mm-hmm. What's your aha moment? That was a big question I would always ask.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like to you when you just aha? What was that thing? What's your daily routine like? I know you got a big daily routine.
Religious. Yeah.
And I try to emulate that.
I see it on Instagram stories.
It's my life.
Bulletproof coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wheels up in the morning. A little gratitude. A little meditation. Mm-hmm. Visualization. I think those things are big, man. If I was doing that 10 years ago, geez, I'd be.
I'm with
We'd
you,
be cash flowing big time.
I agree.
But so I think, I went to Joe, told him, hey, look, I can't give it up my all. He's like, you're an idiot. You got to give it your all. Go for it. Well, I sublet my apartment, and I ended up moving. This is 2009 now. I ended up moving in my Tahoe. Mm-hmm. And I had a coat rack, and I got rid of some clothes, and I just kept it lean and mean. And I would shower at the gym, and I'd live in my car, and a buddy at M&M was like, hey man, I got a vacant apartment. I got a month left on the lease. Do you want it? And I'm like, yeah. And I slept on a blow-up mattress there for a month. Mm-hmm. Then he helped me live in a guy's garage, but it was in Corona Del Mar, so it was like the nicest garage you've ever seen in your life. But, I did that.
You didn't quit.
I didn't quit. And
dude, everybody quits in that situation. Not everybody, most.
Most quit. I mean, it was hard. It taught me so much more, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, later, but it taught me so much about family. And I think we all get it, but when you're like really alone and you can't just, go home and hang out with mom and just like, just get recentered.
And
you know what I mean?
There's no nurturing.
You're
just starving for it. You're like, well, somebody please give me a hug and tell me it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I literally I got my Rolex in 2006. But I had to pat myself on the back on a couple things, but and got that. But
that's what we're talking about off camera before.
But the Rolex was
simple.
In when I got a job, I had to get a job at Starbucks and Spaghetti Factory on the peninsula. And at Starbucks, I mean, this Rolex been in a toilet bowl scrubbing that toilet, no doubt. And I'm just looking at that image, and there's nothing like I didn't feel like I was better than anything. Like I just had to do what I had to do.
You can tell, man, because if you are, you're gonna go find some credit cards, and you're going to get some stupid leased apartment that you can't afford to put on this front. And you're like, no, I'm staying here. I'm not going to let this place beat me. I'm going to go live in my car, and then I'm going to live in this garage in an air mattress. I have an air mattress story, too, and it sucks, especially when it popped at 2 o'clock in the morning. And as I'm floating to the bottom of the floor, I look up to like God. I'm like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Like, I'm already on the air mattress. Now I got to sleep on the ground, bro, but that's what I needed.
Yep.
So I get it, man. I'm like, I'm not going to let this fucking thing win.
Right.
And as you're cleaning...
Scrubbing the toilet, I'm looking down, I'm like, the choices I've made have got me here.
That's right.
And I was like, man.
Ownership.
I owned it. I for sure owned it. And I'm just like, man, I want out. And I didn't get out quick. It was a long time. So I think mental health.
Hold on 1 second, because that's really important.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go and have a dinner with mom and dad or somebody and be past that. Like, giving yourself permission to take the time to get out of that is where I think most people fail. Because they're like, when's this going to be over? When's this going to be over? It's going to be over when it's over. Yeah. Like, so that's a really important part. I hate to cut you off again.
No.
But, like, it's really important for people to understand that, like, if you have any kind of mental anything, depression, anxiety, self-worth, all that stuff, it takes time to right the ship as long as you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah, I think, what I did was I ended up buckling down, and, they say it's a marathon, not a sprint. Well, I did sprint the marathon. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it's highly recommended.
Because you can blow out like an Achilles or a knee.
Exactly, and then I'm like crawling to the finish line. But, I did that. I sprinted the marathon. It was hard on the body. It was hard on stress levels, and you have to offset that and have an outlet. But I think a lot of successful people out there battle with, stress, anxiety, all kinds of things, and, learning how to cope with that, channel it, especially if you're doing like high volume business. There's a lot to keep in the brain. So I think the morning routine is super beneficial to do more, but then not hold it all in.
It creates the space and the pause you're going to need in your day, especially when you're doing huge deals like you're doing and you're running a team. The day's going to light on fire at some point. I've never had a day where it's like all day.
Yeah.
It's always something bad.
Yeah, I'm like, now I'm like, man, I don't want to be like putting out fires all the time. But guess what? That's my job. Like, that's kind of where those are the things that move the needle.
No one calls you when everything's awesome.
Yeah, that's not.
Call you for problems.
If you come in, you got the right mindset in the morning, then you can crush the day.
That's right.
So I know we're kind of bopping around, but I ended up. So let's see. My manager finds out that I'm living in my car, and Joe, who hired me, he brought me out here. He felt guilty. He's an Italian guy, great guy. He's like, hey, I saw you going down the escalator.
There's no way there's any Italian that's going to let you live in a car.
Yeah, I saw you going down the escalator. Where are you going? Like, my buddies ratted on me. They're like, Dan's living in his car. He's depressed. So
and he's still producing.
And he's still getting after it. He's here on a Sunday. It's like, dude, I live in my car. It's fine. But anyways,
and there's coffee here. I don't have coffee in my car.
I know, right? And they're like, who's taking all the cups? I'm like, well,
I gotta pee in there.
But Joe's like, you're gonna move in with me.
Rad.
And I'm like, okay. And I moved in with him, lived with him for 3 months. Again, this doesn't like get better fast. It was sideways for a while. So
it doesn't get better fast. It doesn't get better fast.
Remember that. So 3 months go by. I'm like, no income, by the way, guys. BK, filing. I kept my car, thank God. But there was a lot of like people doing like workouts on their houses or like, their car or whatever. So like I had a loan with a bank on my car, small loan on the Tahoe. And from the office line, I call the bank and say, hey, I can't really make my payments anymore. I was making the payments at the time. And then I said, I can't really make the payments anymore. And I stopped. 2 months into it, they repoed my car because I called from the office line. They reversed it, found out exactly where I was. Because I was in North Carolina, they couldn't find it in California.
They're like, oh, he's crushing it in multifamily in California. He's fine. He's full of shit.
Well, at that time, I had zero income. That was like year 3 of like next to nothing, right?
Yeah.
So my good buddy, Nate Holthauser, who I'm business partners with today on investment properties, he calls me because we had to pay $50 a month to park in the parking lot at Marcus Millichap. I thought that was ridiculous coming from North Carolina. I'm like, dude, are you serious? But that's California. So he calls me, he's like, no, dude, your car's gone. And I'm like, oh man, no, they got it from the free lot we were parking at that you're not supposed to. And he's like, no, man, they like came in the building, your car's repoed. And, no income, away from my family, foreclosures on all the houses, getting the shit kicked out of me in the market, learning curve up the ass. I'm like, dude, I literally just bolted out of the office, and I had a lot of anger, but then I just broke down and cried like I hadn't cried since I was like 12 years old, and snot going all over the place, and I literally, had that moment, had to release the emotion. I kind of wiped my face off, went to the bathroom, kind of wiped it off, and I went back in the office, and I started cold calling.
Yep.
And
it feels good, man. Like to get that crack open and then let it all out.
Yeah.
It feels really, really good.
The only way out was through the telephone. The only way. A guy was leaving, as I was calling around that time, a guy was leaving the firm. It was candidly a revolving door at that time, just in the business.
With the market, right?
Yeah, with the market, exactly. So he leaves and he goes, hey, it doesn't matter what your desk looks like. It doesn't matter how organized you are. It doesn't matter how clean this or that is. You need to be on the phones. The phone's the only thing that matters. And I follow that even to this day, even though I might have a messy desk.
It's true, though. Like, whoever talked to the most people wins.
Yeah, it's a contact sport. The more people
is.
you contact, the better you do. So I was like, man, I thought like a broker, like I didn't even really know what to expect on the outside. You see these big buildings, you don't know if you're selling skyscrapers or what are you doing? You're selling, I felt like I was like basically almost like a telemarketer. And I'm like, okay, it's the phones. Then I'm gonna get over that, and that's what it is. And I'm gonna become the best person on the phones, and I'm gonna help people. Because eventually, through the rich dad, poor dad stuff in the beginning, you want to have your money work for you so you don't have to work for money. I want to be on the principal side. That's why I got into multifamily. I didn't have any other connections. I had to start at the bottom. You want to own units? You want to learn how to become, hey, an apartment broker. You can make a
I was
great,
the same way, man.
dude, you can make a great return on your money once you learn how to allocate your time and learn how to add value and help people through the process. So that's, and my style on the phones was really based on how I would want to be treated when I'm a principal.
I'm the same way, man.
Like, I don't want to get a call from some pushy dude.
No.
But some people need to be pushed. But I'm not that. And I think through the years of cold calling, I was making like 12 to 15,000 cold calls a year. I was able to find out, who I was. What's my style?
Style of communication.
Exactly.
Right.
How I can add
Your
value.
flow, for sure.
You can't win them all.
Nope.
I wanted to have 100% market share. It's not possible.
It's close.
You can get to 90. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
It was really competitive. So my car got repoed. So my buddy Nate was driving me to work every day.
And this is pre-Lyft and Uber, my friend.
This is pre-Lyft and Uber, man. This is 2009. Like, I don't even know what kind of phone I had, but it wasn't an iPhone. And I was working at Starbucks. I had a George Foreman grill in the kitchen, and I was like heating up all the free food that Starbucks would kind of give away to the homeless every night.
Yeah, that's all you need though.
But
George Foreman's the best.
Dude, the homeless lady to pick up all the little paninis didn't come in for like 4 or 5 days, and they had like 40 or 50 of them.
Like freezer.
Yeah, and I threw it in the Marcus Millichap freezer, and I was like, George Foremaning, and you just got to get through it. And I had I think so. Biggest thing, mentor. That's the first and foremost. Work for free, who cares? You're getting time with them. Are you kidding? You're going to pick up so many nuggets. Absorb everything you can. Shadow them. Some people kind of want to be, like certain mentors will sit down and talk to you and explain things. And then certain mentors you just need to shadow. You just need to kind of be quiet and just watch them flow.
That's what I did. I would literally hop in my mentor's car as he's driving all through LA on the phone with investors the whole time. And I would just listen. How he would talk to the investors, how he would talk to the contractors that were calling and doing these deals, how he would talk to the banks when we're trying to get funding for these giant projects.
Yeah.
And I just listened because he had 17 years in the game and I had 1 month. But I got a crash course in everything because, like you, I was willing to just learn, and I'm extremely coachable. But one part that you missed was your resiliency. Like, dude, all those things are great, but you did not stop. And the hits kept coming.
Yeah.
And you're like, look, I'm going to go to Starbucks, I'm going to go to Spaghetti Factory, and I'm still going to work at the job I came out here to do. Like, you are destined to do big shit because you are not going to let them win.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And dude, I saw that when I first met you. I was like, dude, one, this guy's a really good dude. He has a big heart. He cares, but he's this like quiet machine where like you just work your face off.
Yeah. No, it was working, it was learning, and then learning how to become efficient. Like I was working 6 days, really 6 or 7, but I got into the routine for years, Monday through Saturday, and I reached so many people on Saturdays. A lot of brokers don't work the weekends, apartment brokers, and I worked Saturdays, so I looked at it like, geez, okay, I get an extra day, that's 20% more than my competition. You annualize that, that's when you do that 2 or 3 years, you start kind of leapfrogging your competition, or at least, that's the goal.
It's collapsing time, for sure.
For sure. So, and then learning how to be efficient, aligning yourself with really good people. But Nate, my buddy, who I mentioned, he would drive me to work. It took 6 months. I still haven't earned a check. I moved in with him on the peninsula on 41st Street in Newport Beach, and they built me a fake room in the living room. They put up 2 walls and a door.
That's right.
And, actually Nate was living with his mom at the time in Glendora. I got him to move in, and I took the fake room, which was insane, but I did it, and Nate was like, me and him I think the biggest thing, you have the mentor, but me and him would come home every day and talk about, he did retail investment sales, I would talk to him about my multifamily experiences, what I had on the phone, and we kind of multiplied the sum of the parts were, more together.
It's because you guys had each other back, and then you had someone to basically talk to the stuff about. If you just went home every day and drank beers and just tried to forget about what you're trying to do, you would have never made it.
Yeah, I couldn't have aligned myself with a bunch of people that weren't trying to get after the same thing.
That's right.
So the mentorship, and then on the daily, your 5 closest people or, that kind of thing. So I was just surrounded by good people, good vibes. They were pushing me. So I was the weakest link, dude. I was broke. I mean, I had my Starbucks apron on. I didn't even know what I was butchering names. They still make fun of me because I used to call it Los Alamitos instead of Los Alamitos. And dude, Nate would have post-it notes like that's wrong, and but those were people who were making me better, yeah, for sure. So 6 months after that, so we're now 13 months in the business. I've made zero money except the Starbucks stuff and the spaghetti factory, and I sucked as a waiter, and I sucked. They didn't even let me be a barista at Starbucks. They just wanted me to clean up. But I chipped a coffee cup cleaning it. I still have the coffee cup to this day. They're like, just throw it out. Nice. And I have it. And I don't really drink out of it anymore, but I did for years just to remind me. Yep. And my dad would call me. He's like, son, I don't care that you just remember cash is king. And he would call me, and at the end of the day, at the end of the call, he would say, and remember, cash is king, cash is king, cash is king. I'm like, I know. But then it was
How important was that support system back home?
Man, it was huge. I didn't go home for a while. Like the first couple years, I didn't go home. Like I had something to prove. Mm-hmm. And I mean, my relationship with my dad kind of sucked, honestly, for a very long time. He gave me a lot of tough love, but he taught me work ethic when I was little. I didn't really get along with him, but this experience I was having in California allowed me to connect with my dad.
Because you were able to show your mettle and show what you were made of. And if you would have broke and went home, you'd probably have a very different relationship with him today. Yeah,
for sure. No doubt. And
I'm sure he's really fucking proud of you.
He's stoked.
I bet.
I ended up, he rented a house, and then he ended up buying an RV and driving around the country with my mom and him. Awesome. It was cool. I ended up paying off the RV. And he's like, I don't need anything. I'm like, let me do this for you guys. You did so much for me. It was cool. So anyways, I closed my first deal in 13 months, and I got this check. And I remember I was sitting in the Starbucks parking lot. I was turning in my resignation at the time.
I got a check, bitch.
I'm out.
Turning it in.
No more toilets. So I got the check, and I think this is really important because if you're wholesaling deals or buying deals or brokering deals, you did 10 times the amount of work than what you probably got paid. Mm-hmm. And
for sure.
And I was so pissed. And I remember I made my first note in my iPhone. I wrote down, I'm like, I got my first check today, and this is I feel like I worked 10 times more. I'm not happy with this. But I wrote, I'll feel better when, as Joe Chesta told me, as your consistency of closings get a little tighter. You might close one deal your first year, 2 your second, 3 or 4, and then it just boom every month, and then twice
You feel lighter. You'll start to feel a little lighter.
Yes.
A little lighter. I kind of got this a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And it does take time. So, all those negative thoughts that I was having, all the stuff I was going through, foreclosure, bankruptcy, Starbucks, no friends. I got all my friends back home that know me. I'm over here. I wasn't really happy, honestly, but I kept going. I bought a car. Fast forwarding into some more brighter times, my second year I closed it wasn't much, maybe 4 deals. I made 30 or 40 grand. I was like, man, this sucks. My first year I made 13. But then after my third year of really getting after it, I ended up closing 25 buildings and really aligned with a team.
And that was the tipping point.
That was the tipping point. Okay. That was the time I got, actually Nate and I lived in that fake room. We were making good money. And I was staying in there.
Because I don't want to break the secret sauce. It's working.
It's working. Nate and I, we had these little dry erase boards in our rooms, and there was this trip called NAA, the National Achievement Award at Marcus Millichap. You had to gross $750,000 at the time to go. It's Hawaii, so we'd draw little palm trees, mm-hmm. and we would always talk in the present,
visualization, mm-hmm.
and we would do that, and I think that kept me. I had 1% chance of making it, but Nate kept me there. Mentorship kept me there. The Brian Tracy goals. I think there was a goal setting audiobook that we would listen to that mm-hmm. really helped my mindset. Mm-hmm. So those were some of the things that I really kept with, and I kept working in Anaheim. We ended up building a team. We expanded, but photoing every apartment building and knowing every nuance in that market, we just duplicated that into the entire county eventually.
That's right.
So
And it separates you. Like, you're willing to do the work that most teams won't.
right. So now it's more of, then we started like year 4, we started throwing some nickels and dimes into deals. And we were able to align with some investors that were allowing us to show us, a little bit more of the ropes, and we built some relationships, did some of those deals, because it's really more about, I don't know if everybody's that gets in the brokerage business just wants to broker until they're 60, and you want to get in and get some action, get on title, get cash flow, and have some of that coming in. And I think that's really,
it's important to have the investor mindset as you're doing deals, and it's a huge part of my message is you're an investor first. You just happen to sell real estate.
yeah. You know what, looking back on it, so we chose to put nickels and dimes into deals and be limited partners into properties, get a little check, get some statements, see how these buildings really run.
How they run.
Like,
it's important to learn how to be an operator. It's one thing to send some money to somewhere and then it closes and you get a little money, but when you understand how to be an operator,
yeah.
now it's like teaching somebody how to fish. Like, you're not going to go hungry now. You can take that skill set anywhere in the world.
That's a really good point. I mean, as a broker, it's like you can be a great advisor, but if you don't really know how these things run, you're underwriting the building with BS expenses. Like, it's just,
right.
So,
which you see a lot, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a guy, Gordon Reese, told me one time. He goes, Dan.
Oh, you know Gordon? I know you know Gordon.
Yeah. Gordon's a man. He actually gave me $100 one time when I was bummed. He's like, go have some fun tonight.
That's awesome.
I'll always remember that. But no, Gordon's a man. So he was like, Dan, if you're an apartment broker and you don't own any units, you're like a ski instructor that's never even skied.
That's great. That sounds like Gordon too.
Dude, that makes a lot of sense. And he loves to ski. So
yes.
So we chose the route of the nickels and dimes into limited partnerships, get some checks. And, a couple of years later, we were like, wow, we did fine, but we probably would have been better off just buying a little fourplex on our own. Being in control. We thought
3.5% financing. You guys could both live in one of the units.
Oh,
you guys could have split this $12,000 down, $6K a piece.
Yeah.
You could do that if you work in Starbucks.
Yeah.
And then you rent out the other 3 units.
Yeah, or 2 side-by-side fourplexes, and Nate buys one, I buy one, and we control it together. There's so many things.
And now you have $1 million in equity.
Totally. And we want to sell, we sell.
Right.
We want to keep it, we keep it.
Full
we want to
control.
refinance, exactly. So, and then, we did end up buying some units on our own, and I think that allowed us to become better advisors to our clients because we could talk about real stuff
that you were doing.
Yeah.
The conversation with a real investor is very different when you're in the game and you understand how to protect them and what they look for.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm super transparent with all of them. Like, look, here's a building that I wouldn't buy, and here's why. Or here's a building I would love to buy. Maybe we should partner on it, and here's why.
Yeah, that's solid.
It's just different.
You got high-level people, investors, they don't have time to pick through an OM. They want some of your thoughts. And it's really good, to your point, by saying, hey, look, here's the pros, here's the cons. The parking sucks, or whatever. It's flat roof, master meter, whatever it is. If you're not selling it, it changes that dynamic of the conversation, the trust level.
100%.
Yeah.
I have built more relationships by saying, look, here's what I would sell you if I was a scumbag. If all I cared about was my commission, here's what I would tell you about this property.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that person, here's what I'm going to tell you about this property. And by doing that, I'm saving them time. I'm actually looking after their money for their family, and I'm not just looking after my benefit. When they start to realize that over time, that's how you get invited to Christmas dinners. That's how you get invited to go play golf with people, and now your network's growing, and people that want to do deals with you, because you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Over and over again.
You can sleep at night.
That's right. And you're doing the same.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I would go, and after I got enough money to get out on my feet, we wouldn't even really think about the fees. Those are just a byproduct of helping people. And it goes in the bank, and I think the best thing, and you harp on this all the time, the best ROI you can get is reinvesting in yourself. So we were just always big on coaching, pushing ourselves, whatever we could do to increase our skill set, invest in a team. But our goal now, I keep saying we, it's Nate and I, as investors, you know, we have our own, we actually have an LLC called 41st Street Investments. It's because of the street we lived on in Newport, and that means a lot to us, you know, big time. So.
Because you guys can trust each other, like you have each other's back.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yeah, if you find a good partner, man, just that can be worth so much, because then he's another set of eyes on a deal. He is going to bring his own opportunities to the table. I'm going to bring my own, and it's like 2 + 2 = 9, you know, not 4.
That's right.
So I think that's big. So mentorship, good partners. You don't need partners, but I think that's good. But now it's like, even with the team, when we're putting together deals, the team's investing in the deals too with us.
Because you're leading by example.
And I think that's huge. That's what I kind of almost designed what I wanted.
What you wanted.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing now. That's why I literally wrote the book 100 Doors. That's why I'm doing all this stuff. I'm like, I would have given my left arm to be able to hang out with somebody like me when I started.
Yeah.
I'm such a giver. I'll give you all my secrets, all my hacks. I'll tell you exactly how I do stuff that I shouldn't tell anybody, but I tell everybody.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, it's so important for me to give back.
No, for sure. I think when you have that attitude, it's just more things come your way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's kind of drives us. That's what allows, you know, when I get out of bed and my feet hit the ground and I'm going, it's not like make more commission. Like, I mean, it's just like help more people.
Right.
You know, align with a team. I saw some of these when Nate and I did hit NAA and we finally did go to those trips. That was such an accomplishment to us, you know, that was so big. There were some people there that were way, you know, got there in 3 years. It took us 5. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how'd you get it there? And they're like, well, I joined this team. I did it. This team, you know, it was just like they got a really good opportunity. I'm like, that's what we need to create. We need to help people get there faster. I don't want people having to go through the stuff I did. I don't think they really will have to, but you kind of have to go through a little bit.
Yeah, but most people wouldn't be able to do what you did. Let's just be honest. Like, I don't care how good of a leader you are. If you have somebody on your team that's in their car and then they're this and then they're that, it takes a special person to keep walking through that.
Yeah, it took a lot. I think there's just something. Oh, and sprinting the marathon, most people will burn out, but if you dig deep and there's something in your gut that's driving you, if that drive is just like fire, and
you have to find your burn. And there's this guy named Ben who was on my show, and he coaches like these high-level athletes, NFL players, and he's like, look, everybody's talking about your why and your passion, and that's great and all, and it's very important.
Yeah.
But where's your burn? Like, where's your fire in your belly? Like, that's the part that you're actually speaking to right now. Like, where's your burn? Because it has to be way bigger than you, because you'll quit.
Yeah. So it was finding. To that, if you don't have that, then you gotta really dig down. Where is your passion? And when you find it, you'll feel that ignite, and that's when you won't burn out. I think that's when you can go crazy and dig down. It's not really work. You're
shout outs to Ben Newman, who's the fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Love that. Okay, so then you started doing some deals, and then you finally made it to the national deal where you did over $700K in GCI, and you're there. Then you come back and you're like, we got to build a team, we got to be of service, we're going to hammer the phones, and you start to have a little bit of a life maybe, right? And then you meet your wife, and then you start this whole journey, and it's been a pretty good trek since, right? Like, I mean, you went through some really hard times, but now you're kind of like, all right, now I'm on the stairs. Now I'm going up.
Yep. Now it was, how do we multiply? How do we triple that?
That's good,
I know
right?
Now it's all 10x, but before it wasn't.
That's right.
We
Yeah,
were just trying to double.
Didn't exist before. Like, how do we double every year?
Yeah. How do we double every year? And then we just worked on doubling. So like, you know, I met Kim. I actually met Kim at the house Nate and I lived at. One of our roommates knew Kim, and she came over. And Nate and I were getting home at like 10 o'clock at night. You know, that's a regular deal. Mm-hmm. And really, that house was just a place for us to, you know, have some beers and pass out.
Sleep, shower, go back.
Exactly. So she's like, you live here? And I'm like, yeah, I live here, you know. I'm Dan, I'm from North Carolina, da, 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 da. And she's like, oh, really? And she's actually born in North Carolina.
Oh,
When
no
she
way.
told me that, I was like, hey, okay, that stuck with me.
That's
But
right.
she's like, I don't know you lived here. I've been over here a few times and I've never seen you. I'm like, we work.
They're like, I'm at Starbucks.
Yeah, yeah. I actually saved that apron one time and wore it as a Halloween costume, and it was the dumbest thing I've ever done. People were like, let me get a macchiato. I'm like, dude, I took it off and threw it in the trash.
Just light on fire.
But I met her right when I was starting to kind of do some deals, and she was extremely supportive.
That's so important.
In hard work. She's an amazing woman, and she supported it. She got it. She understood it, and we did extremely well together as a couple. We ended up getting married. We got a 3.5-year-old little girl named Claire, who's the love of our life.
She's adorable.
We've got baby number 2 coming next Friday.
Yes.
And we don't know if it's a boy or girl. It's a surprise. We did that with Claire.
Dude, that's so exciting.
We're just really happy and blessed. Kim and I have been, it's all about growing legacy, helping others, empowering our, kids, education, giving back. Every deal now that we close, we make a donation to the investors, from the investor to Chalk.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they get that, and they love
That's
that.
a great hospital.
Yeah.
They do so much for the community. It's really cool.
We used to throw parties and have little mixers, and we were like, man, we just wasted. It was great parties. They were awesome, but that was like $20,000 for a party. Let's just give that to Chalk.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and then you could maybe do a shout out to your kids, because they're going to listen to this at some point. This is the first podcast you've ever done.
This is my first podcast, so super stoked. Doing this for Claire and baby number 2.
Love it.
We love you. We don't know who you are yet, but we're going to find out. We're going to find out. And we pretty much got your name figured out, but we're going to keep it a secret.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so special, man. I was the opposite. I had to find out, like as fast as possible. Let's do a blood test. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. There'd be no way I could wait 9 months.
Yeah, I know. My wife's just like, why do we do this? I'm like, babe, I know, it's a surprise.
I love it.
But it's good. So I think now it's cash flow. It still goes back to the rich dad, poor dad stuff.
Dude, me too. Everybody's asking me, because I'm all over the place and speaking and stuff, what are the 6 books I should read? I'm like, well, before these 5, you got to read this one.
Yeah.
I'm not in real estate. Yeah, but you need to read this anyways.
Yeah.
It's the mindset shift. I'll never forget where I was riding my bike as I was listening to it as I'm training for a triathlon. Wasn't even in real estate really yet. And I was listening to that book on a long 6-hour ride. And I remember where I was at on this hill, and I'm like, I'm never going to be the same. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. This can't be this easy.
Mm-hmm. No,
it was.
for sure.
So, dude, I absolutely love it. So then, okay, so you guys meet, you guys get married, and you're starting to build, like, maybe more and more every single year. You're building out a team, and then maybe bring us to 2019 and what you guys accomplished in 2018, and where you guys see the team in the next 5 years.
So we were at Marcus, just to kind of, we were at Marcus Millichap for 6 years, so from like 08 to 14, and then January of 15, we went over to CBRE. They allowed us to run the multifamily investment sales platform for Orange County and run the business line. It was a phenomenal opportunity. I didn't have the courage to do it. And then I just said, hey man, that's the push. You know when you want to contract, that's when you press.
That's right.
You have an opportunity. Who says that when there's an opportunity and you're like kind of like, oh shit, what do? You just say yes.
Yes.
And then figure it out later. It was one of those things.
Every job I've ever had, I've been grossly underqualified for.
Yeah.
Like off the charts, shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, totally. And I'm like, oh my God. So like I went from, small town North Carolina, and I'm able to kind of have this opportunity. I don't deserve it, but I just went for it. We are deserving. We can connect. CB's been a phenomenal opportunity. M&M was phenomenal as well. I learned the business there. It's a great place to come from. I'm super close with a lot of the guys there still, and at CB now we are more identifiable in the marketplace.
You guys are the big boys.
And now we can help. There's so many people with inside CB in the marketplace. So we came over in 15. We doubled our volumes. We've closed now. Fast forwarding, this will be our 5th year because we're going into 2020 now, right?
That's awesome.
So we've closed. We're getting close to $1 billion in investment sales volume for multifamily properties. We've closed about 275 apartment buildings in the past 10 years.
So he did 1 his first year. He did 2 his second year.
Yep.
it's the push, man. Like,
Yep.
and you're gonna get tested the whole way.
There's absolutely, absolutely. There's different levels of challenges. How do you compartmentalize your life? I used to, when I first started, I'm like, how do I, it was a key indicator. It was just, you have to reach 50 contacts a week, 50 contacts, not 49, not 45, 50. That's kind of the make it or break it number. And then
And you have family, so that shifts. I was working 18-hour days before I got married. Like,
dude, yeah, totally.
I'm just driving all over LA doing deals.
Yeah, for sure. And now you got to compartmentalize and you got to compress time. But you start out, you're like, how am I going to do that and go out and meet people and put listings together and do this? And then it's like, okay, now we're fast forwarding to 2019. We're doing 30, 40 deals a year and we want to get to 50 or 60. How do we do that? What does that look like? It's the same thing. It's
The
just
questions you have to ask yourself as a business leader, like,
Yep.
who do I have to now hire to get me there, so to free up me more time to go do things like this, to where you're going to be networking and bringing in the deals. So there's all those different challenges. And you guys are doing a great job, man. You guys are doing a great job. You guys are doing some really cool stuff. And you're branding now and marketing heavily. Like, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Pushing those things. I love your videos you're doing now too. I like little pulls in with like the address and the compressions. I'm like, yes.
Video.
Because your guys' space is just non-existent. And
Right.
again, you're a very good face for the brand. You're a very good face for the company, CBRE, and you're the example. So if you could give some advice to the real estate professional that's doing maybe residential, that's looking to kind of jump ship and maybe go into commercial, or somebody who just hates their job and they've always loved real estate, maybe some advice on how they could get in and what you would maybe do a little bit different.
Getting in, I think it would just go back to the mentorship. I wouldn't just, a lot of people come in and they don't really think it through. They just, I want to come work in commercial real estate and I'll just take any opportunity I can get. Like, oh, office buildings, great, I'll do that. And then they're like, I don't like this. It's like, well, for multifamily, I knew I had the product type. I think you need to think through what do you want and go make an opportunity.
Like self-awareness about who you are.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
don't
a
just
good point.
wait, look for an opportunity, make one. Like, I kind of manufactured that opportunity by going to work for this guy for free, and he was like, all right, sure, you know. And I think I would, mentorship for sure, big time, that's number one. What I would have done differently, I mean, a lot of my mentors are like, it just takes time, and I really didn't want to hear that.
I mean, I still don't want to
I
get that.
don't want it. I'm like, no, that's not the answer I'm looking for.
How
But
do I pay you more to get me there faster?
yes, and I think if you align with people, the biggest thing that I was always looking back and saying, man, you can't do this alone. You don't want to. You want to align with the top talent in the market, somebody that kind of, you're yin and yang, and I think collaborate with them and you can scale faster, you can do more things faster.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I found that with Nate on the investment side, but I never really found that on the brokerage side for a long time. I have that now, but it just didn't. So if you, put yourself out there, you got to put yourself out there to find the mentors and to find the people that.
And ask.
Yeah. A closed
Open
mouth
your
does not get fed.
Ever.
Yeah, you got to ask.
I'm all about mentorship. I have a ton of mentors. I pay a small fortune because I want it faster.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. Well, dude, I'm super pumped. This has been amazing.
Thank
Tons and tons of value. It's been great for everybody to get to know you better.
For sure.
And to know that there is this journey. Like, we're all on this path. We're all on this journey, and it's ours. Sometimes it's going to be full of rocks and fire and bullshit. Other times it's going to be smooth sailing downhill. And then you get different problems. So, like, just knowing that if you're trying to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday, you're going to win. It just takes time. And to all the points you made, it takes time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate that. A lot of fun.
Dude, I'm super proud of you, man. We're going to do deals. We're going to be buying buildings together. Watch out. We're coming for you, especially Long Beach. Stay tuned.
LB.
LB soon. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys next time.